Good morning, everyone. Hello, it's great to see this room packed full of women in bright colours. Normally when I'm standing in this room, it's a room full of men in suits, so it's a nice refreshing change this morning. But I'm so happy to be here with you this morning, and even more happy that you're here at COSLA to celebrating the last 10 years of Cedar's specialist work to support children and young people and their mothers in recovering from their experiences of domestic abuse by focusing on strengthening the mother-child bond. But you all being here at COSLA today means a lot to me, and I'm really excited to help you kick off the day, but I thought it would be really helpful for me to explain a bit about what I do, what COSLA does, and why I'm so excited that you're sitting in this room specifically. So to explain, COSLA stands for the Convention of Local Authorities in Scotland. And the local authority, of course, is an organisation that delivers the important services to people in their day-to-day lives that they need, like schools, street cleaning, social work services, youth clubs, community centres, swimming pools, collecting bins, of course, is very important, and of course, lots more. Sometimes local authority, of course, is known as the local council, maybe even the council, depending on where you're from. And as you probably know, the way things that are done where you live is decided by people called councillors, or councillors, as I'm sometimes known. And of course, we're voted in elections to represent you and everyone who lives in your area. And that is what I do. I'm elected as a councillor in Midlothian, but I also have another role here at COSLA as well, which is known as the voice of local government. So in Scotland, there are 32 separate councils, and that means that sometimes when we're thinking about really tricky problems, of course, we have 32 different opinions on that at times. And when these problems or issues are things that affect people in a lot of areas, it makes sense for us to come together as a united voice. So that's sometimes where I can be helpful. My COSLA role is a bit of a tongue twister, but it's community wellbeing spokesperson, and it means that I meet regularly with the representatives from 32 councils across Scotland, and together we try and make joined up decisions, particularly on stuff that's really important to the wellbeing of people who live in our areas. So it means that instead of having 32 smaller voices, we have one big voice. And sometimes it's good that we're one big voice, because all 32 local councils have agreed that we will work together with the Scottish Government as partners to build a Scotland where everyone will be equally safe from violence and abuse, because there is no well-being where there is violence and abuse. And one big part of the plan that we've all agreed together is to work hard to try and make sure that where mums and their children are affected by harm in their own homes, and where mums and children are having to live like they're walking on eggshells all the time, where their choices and chances are limited by another person in the family, or where they're threatened and afraid of someone else in the family, or where things change so quickly you don't know what might come next, so it's really hard to make safely. When this is happening, we all agreed that we need to find ways to help make it stop. And apologies, got my numbers mixed up. But we're also agreed that we need to be clear that this is not something that we'll tolerate in our communities at all whatsoever, and that we want to prevent violence and abuse against women and children from ever happening in the first place. But when it does, we have agreed that we must work to make sure that when people are not feeling safe and loved and secure at home, they can be in safe places with safe people. And we know that women, young people and children must have support to recover, to build themselves and the relationships back up with each other too. Domestic abuse happens everywhere and to anyone, and is never the fault of those living with abuse. People who live with and through domestic abuse are strong, but we know that they're strongest, best and safest together. So local government works hard to protect the human rights of all people in their lives with dignity, respect, and to be free from violence and abuse of any kind. And that means that we are clear in all that we say and all that we do. That people who hurt and control and frighten others must not be allowed to do that to anyone. But the sad truth is that last year, Police Scotland recorded just over 59,500 incidents of domestic abuse. And these reported incident figures are still likely only to be the tip of the iceberg that's hidden behind closed doors. So we know that the brand new domestic abuse legislation in Scotland will increase understanding and visibility of the huge damage that coercive, controlling behaviours cause, along with other forms of violence and abuse. And this, welcome as is, will bring more need for those being targeted to find people in specialist services and places through which they can be supported on the journey to recovery and freedom from this abuse. The new legislation also clearly sees the harm that living with domestic abuse and coercive control does to children, and at last holds perpetrators to account for that harm done. And that's, of course, really important. We also know that there's an estimated 100,000 children in Scotland experiencing domestic abuse in their lives, and this is not the world that the UN's Convention on the Rights of the Child promises. Its expectation is very clear, that the child, for the full and harmonious development of his or her personality, should grow up in a family environment and an atmosphere of happiness, love and understanding. We know that living with abuse puts a huge strain on all non-abusive family members, and time to heal and grow strong together, with the support people want and need to do so as an integral part of moving forward. And we know that the earlier that children can get help, if they have been emotionally, psychologically and physically harmed by domestic violence, the better it is for them, so that they can grow up to be all that they want to be. And we know that living with abuse makes it really hard for children, since the way they are born, and makes it really hard for non-abusive parents who want to do the best job in raising them up to be healthy and happy adults. And we know that while damage can be serious, that it can be healed. And this is a priority in Scotland that seeks to be the best country in the world for a child to grow up in. So I'm so happy to be welcoming you here. The work of Cedar over the last 10 years, over 11 local authorities, of all those involved in supporting Cedar programmes in every way, and the work of all the mums and young people and the children is so important and valuable to local government and the body that I speak for in my big voice today. Now, I know that councillors who form my Community Wellbeing Board have travelled from across Scotland this morning, and they're now gathered upstairs where we are about to have our meeting to discuss Cedar as the very first thing on our agenda. It was really important for us to put that first and foremost, because we want to know that it is really important to us too. And of course we'll make other decisions that will affect communities across Scotland. So after our meeting, I'm really hopeful that certainly myself and some of our colleagues will come down and hopefully join you for a bit of lunch and hopefully have a chat to you. But thanks for listening to me and for giving me an opportunity to speak at the beginning of this really important day. The programme is fantastic. I'm sure it'll be really inspiring, and I'm really looking forward to lunchtime and hearing the output to that. So thank you very much, and good luck for the rest of your day. Thank you.